Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Focus Nigeria. My name is Amechi Anakwe. Now, a report published by the National Bureau of Statistics last week has shown that about 720 billion naira, that's about $1.2 billion, was paid in cash as bribes to public officials in Nigeria in 2023. The report flows from findings of a survey carried out by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes in partnership with the National Bureau of Statistics. The report, titled Corruption in Nigeria, Patterns and Trends, listed judges and magistrates as the highest recipients of bribes. They are followed by Customs and Immigration Service, the Armed Forces, Land Registry officials, police officers, local government representatives, tax revenue officials, and other public service officials. Others down the ladder are vehicle inspection officials, teachers and lecturers, Federal Road Safety Corps officials, doctors, nurses and midwives, public utility officials, and other health workers. On our discourse today, we shall examine this report in greater details and prefer solutions for the endemic corruption in Nigeria. We have lined up experts to do justice to this. First, we'll be joined by Shamsuddin Lawal. He's the principal data analyst in the National Bureau of Statistics. He'll be joined by Princess Chief Fiero, National Program Officer for Anti-Corruption in the United Nations Office for Drugs and Crimes. And after them, Yakubu Umar, Executive Director, the Center for Fiscal Transparency, will weigh in. Before then, let's update you with topical national issues. Now, the federal government is sending 20 trucks of rice to each state of the federation, that's 36 in all, including the Federal Capital Territory. This announcement came after Monday's Federal Executive Council meeting and is part of the drive of the federal government to ameliorate the acute hunger in the land.
What the government is doing now is just the necessary first step to ensure that supplies are made available to Nigerians through the state governors. I have told you earlier that 20 trucks of rice already has reached the state governors. All the governors have already taken delivery of that. And government will continue to work to ensure that food is made available.
Okay, the governors are taking charge. Will it get to the end users, those the rice are meant for, the vulnerable, the poorest of the poor in our society? Well, in the past, when governors were asked to distribute, most of these items found their way to warehouses where they were hidden. Recall during the protests that took place some years ago, citizens started breaking into warehouses where foodstuff meant for distribution to them were hoarded by the governors. Even when you ask federal institutions and agencies to distribute, it's still the same problem of corruption and the products not getting to those that need it. Now, when we in Nigeria establish the necessary framework that will ensure that what is meant for its citizens, especially the poor, gets to them. Anyway, on another issue about still concerning the economy, this time the mainstay, crude oil. Mele Kyari, the CEO of NNPC Limited, and Hennekin Lopobri, the Minister of State for Petroleum, Crude Oil, were guests of a Senate committee asking questions about the state of crude oil refineries and refining in Nigeria. Both are optimistic that before you could say Jack, in a month or few months' time, Nigeria will become a net exporter of refined crude oil. Sounds very strange because these promises have come in the past. Several times with NNPC missing all the targets it has set for resumption of the refineries.
This country, as we have said, will be a next exporter of petroleum products by the end of this year. And we're very optimistic that by December, this country will be net exporter. That means combination of production coming from us and also from the Dangote refinery and other smaller producing companies that we know are in line to do this. So I can confirm to you, Mr. Chairman, that by the end of the year, this country will be a net exporter of petroleum product. Now, coming specific to NNPC refinery, as you recall, and we have spoken to a number of your committees, that it is impossible to have the Kaduna refinery come to operation before December. It will get to December. Both Wari and Kaduna and Port Harcourt will, as you recall, Mr. President, we did mechanical completion. Let me explain this very clearly. We did have mechanical completion of the Port Harcourt refinery, which means that every technical work that is required to get the refinery to work has been completed. And I'm very sure that latest by early August, the Port Harcourt refinery old will start producing product. And of course, the new one will get to December, and Wari will also be in production. I'm very optimistic. I can confirm to you that we have taken every step to make sure that it works. Thank you.
Right now, we have a clear plan to see how we can get, 2 million barrels and more. And I believe that we need the support of all members of the National Assembly. We need the support of all Nigerians, to be able to achieve that one. We also, revamping the midstream and the downstream. Our fiscals, are today globally competitive, because you agree with me that before now, complaint was that investors were not coming in. But investors have started coming in, because this government has decided to, make a fiscal condition, a governance, condition or structure.
New promises on the date of resumption of refineries owned by NNPC Limited. 5 previous targets and promises failed. And so, will you say it will now come someday, sometime, like when we're expecting the Messiah to come back to the world? Anyway, to other issues now, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State has raised issues with the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy, saying it is a landmine and the implementation will be very difficult for the country.
The decision of the Supreme Court, as it concerns financial autonomy, so-called financial autonomy of the local government councils, because I believe a lacuna has been created between that Supreme Court decision and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I spoke to the Commissioner for Finance yesterday. He should have been here. And he said to me that, well, okay, they said to them that FARC is on Tuesday, I think tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? Tomorrow, yeah, FARC is tomorrow. Please, all of you come. We will delay the implementation of the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, so that for the next 90 days, which is 3 FARCs from now, they will still pay the money into the JAC account. Who is fooling who in this country? You make the law, you break it, so the law is at your own whims and caprices. That is not how to run a country. If you make the law, let us all obey the law. But like I said, for us in Oyo State, we can solve our own problem, we can deal with our situation, and we can prioritize our people.
Now, Governor Makinde believes the Supreme Court judgment will be difficult to implement. And it appears there are other aspects of our Constitution that Supreme Court contradicts. What constitutes the federation in Nigeria? Is the local government going to be a third tier? The Supreme Court says yes, by giving them access to sharing of resources. But we'll refer you to Section 2 of the Nigerian Constitution that states clearly, defines the Nigerian Federation. Nigeria shall be a federation consisting of states and a federal capital territory. Now, no mention of local government here. So perhaps we need to either go to this Section 2 to amend it and bring in local government as a tier of government based on the Supreme Court judgment, or we manage the conflict inherent now based on the judgment in our Constitution. We'll go for a break now. When we come back, we'll go to our discourse where we'll take a look at corruption in Nigeria. Report published by the National Bureau of Statistics following a survey conducted by the United Nations Office on Drug and Crimes, listing issues, who's collecting, who's ready to give, and who are those institutions that are big collectors. We'll be breaking that report for you. Do stay with us.
Of our dream, the Nigeria we need is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria, which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We told you earlier our focus will be on corruption in Nigeria, an evil, a cankerworm, whatever name you call it. It deserves it. All efforts to curtail it, not making the desired progress. But this report, latest report from Nigerian Bureau of Statistics and United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes, list the institutions that are the biggest bribe takers, and it may surprise you about those that are the top and others listed down the line. In the past, we thought the police is the biggest collector, but this is a scientific survey using certain methodology and has put judges and magistrates as the biggest collectors. Does it mean that justice is for sale in Nigeria? Are we going to keep quiet about this report and allow it to just fade away as we have done in the past? What should we do to begin to change this trend? After judges and magistrates, you have customs and immigration officials also collecting as much as possible. Members of the armed forces, is it because of their deployment to the roads that accounts for this? Our civilization of our military. After them, you have the land registry officers, the police featured, local government representatives, other public officials, vehicle inspection officials, teachers, lecturers, Federal Road Safety Corps, doctors, nurses, and midwives, public utility officers, and other health workers. Now, let's bring in our guests to break this down for us. Shamsuddin Lawa is the principal data analyst in the National Bureau of Statistics. He joins us virtually, and with him is Princess Chifiero, National Program Officer of Anti-Corruption in the United Nations Office for Drugs and Crime. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, Good morning, listeners.
Okay, glad to have you. Let's start from the National Bureau of Statistics, Shamsuddin. Give us a background to this survey. What did you seek out to measure, and what did you find out?
Okay, thank you very much, listeners. Thank you, Amechi. So this is the third round we conducted this survey. The first survey was conducted 2016, while the second round of the survey was conducted 2019. So the one we just now was conducted last year, 2023, around October. And the survey was funded by MacArthur Foundation through UNODC. And it's a household-based survey whereby we visited some selected households within the country. That is, we visited all the states and FCT. And it is important for us to know that we visited both urban and rural areas. As you mentioned during your opening, that it's a very scientific method of data collection we deploy to collect the data, and we use tablet known as CAPI. computer-assisted personal interview to gather the data. We visited the selected households to collect the data, and within the household, we interview one randomly selected adult. By adults, I mean 18 years and above, and we ask them based on their experiences, and we ask them few questions that has to do with their perception, few questions, but majorly what we analyze in the report are experiences, those selected responded experience when in contact with public officials, when they are trying to get services from those public officials. And you already mentioned in your opening, or you listed some of the public officials we studied, like about 18 of them. We have police, judges, road safety, you already mentioned them, all have them on the report. And additionally, on this third round of the survey that we conducted last year, 2023, we added or we improved in some of the dimensions. We added gender dimension questions, location of bribery, where the bribery happened, whether in the office of the public officials, on the street, or whether they call on phone, and also the disability dimension. So that's that about the methodology of the data collection before we can go into the analysis of the numbers. Thank you.
Let's begin to break down the numbers. From what I see from the report, 9% of persons who had contact, from what I say about the report, a greater number of Nigerians are refusing to offer these bribes. At the first instance, first request, it appeared they turn it down and insist that they are not going to be part of it. Speak more to this.
Yes, this is one of the positive outcome of the survey. And before I mention that, let's start with the contact. As you mentioned, the contact rate. Contact rate is the rate at which citizens, they normally have contact with public officials when they are trying to get services. So we analyzed, or we estimated from the last survey, 2019, there's a significant drop from 63% of contact rate to 56%. And this is in relation to e-governance and other contactless services that you don't need to see public officials before you can get services from them. For instance, if you want to get international passport or driver license or other operations, that you just go online and do the necessary transactions without having contact with the public officials, also improve on that. And the chart you display, I don't want us to mix it up with the prevalence rate. That is the average amount received as bribe by those public officials. So, but I think it will be good for us to start with the prevalence rate before we can go into the average amount received.
So quickly take us to the prevalence rate.
So the prevalence rate is the proportion of adults. You know, I already defined adults in the context of the survey, 18 years and above, who had contact with public officials in the last 12 months. That is the reference period. We asked them on a particular certain reference period from November 2022 to October 2023 when we conducted the survey. We asked them whether in the last 12 months, whether they had contact with public officials and they asked them to pay bribe, so and we paid the bribe, or they declined to pay the bribe. That's the denominator of the prevalence rate. Among adults who had contact with public officials. So contact rate or contact rate is the denominator of computing the prevalence rate. So once the contact rate is reducing, obviously the prevalence rate will be reducing. So percentage of adults who had contact with public officials to pay a bribe and they pay, or they were asked to pay bribe, they decline. Among those that had contact with public officials in the last 12 months, that's how to compute the prevalence rate of bribery.
Well, the takeaway from this is that the less contact citizens have with public officials, the less likelihood for bribe to be demanded and offered. So this is food for thought for the government. build the framework that will stop that physical engagement where roadblocks, intentional roadblocks will be put in to slow down processes to force citizens to pay bribe. But let's get to Princess Chiefo of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. What does this report mean to Nigeria?
Well, a lot of things. Good morning, and thank you for having me on the show. A lot of things I would say. For one, it is good to see the progress being made by Nigeria. That means some of the efforts that governments are embarking in are yielding results. And I think that's something worth noting and worth commending. But it's also saying that there's still a lot of work to be done. And it's important to listen to those issues citizens are bringing up and consistently saying these are the areas that affect us. Mind you, the citizens here we're talking about is like a common man like me and you, who try to make ends meet, or the market woman or the driver. These are the things that affect them. These are the things that are saying that affect them. So, yes, kudos to the government for some of the effort. Kudos to the citizens for saying enough is enough. We are going to do the right thing. I think that's very commendable. But it's also an opportunity for government to say, okay, where have we missed it? Where should we begin to focus our efforts so that our citizens really be satisfied or enjoy some good benefits?
So it means that there are areas the government must latch on from this report to begin to strengthen institutions, build frameworks that would deal with corruption and enthrone transparency and accountability. That's the princess.
Oh, yes. It is saying that there's still a lot of work to be done. But I always say this, the fight against corruption is not a one-man's job. It's not dependent on the government alone. It requires everybody, you, me, the man on the street, to play their own. So as we build processes and set up, measures to kind of counter corruption, it is equally important that they empower citizens to continue on this positive trend that we're seeing. Recognize those who are, doing the right thing, and provide deterrence for those who are not, so that we continue on that trend. Another important thing that I feel the government should do is also identify the areas, focus on the areas that matters to citizens. So areas that really affect them. If we're saying education being affected, medical, these are areas that where they go to access services, they face some form of challenges accessing those services that are owed to them. So maybe government should really work on those efforts so that the lives of ordinary citizens can really be improved. And I think that's important. Now, another key area.
Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You wanted to bring in the last point, another area.
Yes. The last one I would mention is that we should try to also recognize that there is a gender difference. The experiences of men and women when it comes to corruption are usually different. Also, people with disability. From the report, it doesn't matter if you have disability or not, corruption still affects them. But the impact that it has, the negative impact predominantly that it has on people with disability can be quite enormous. And it's important to recognize that and put efforts in place to try to tackle that. Also for women, things like sexual corruption or sextortion, as it's called, it's important to put that, into the plan. Make it a consideration as you enhance or strengthen your frameworks. So yeah, I'll listen to you now.
Okay, good. You have exhausted those nice options. And the sextortion is something that sounds interesting. And I was reading a report somewhere that up to 80% of women have faced one form of sexual harassment in one places or the other. And these are facts, data we don't appear to put so much attention on and see what we can do to lower that high number. It's really demeaning for our women to, in fact, go through this very excruciating experience. But the UNODC has been involved with fighting corruption crimes in Nigeria. At some point, one of your reports in the past likened the amount of money public officials have stolen from Nigeria over the years as, if you line it up, you can step on it from Nigeria to the moon, if you recall. Now, with that at the back of your mind, and efforts all the stakeholders, government, media, are making, civil society, are we really making progress in Nigeria to tame corruption?
When it comes to corruption or fighting corruption, even the 0.001% is progress because of the endemic nature of the corruption. I think there's nowhere in the world that is free, totally free of corruption. That's something we need to recognize. That being said, we do need to put in our best efforts. The way we look at it from UNODC, because we are the guardian of the UN Convention Against Corruption, which Nigeria is a signatory to, and one of the key roles we play is to support the government to implement that convention. They've signed up to say, okay, we are committed to doing this and doing that. And research, gathering data on corruption to assess the effectiveness and efficiency, but also trying to ensure that you have access to public data, public administrative data, and to help improve on your anti-corruption measures is very important. And Nigeria has done this 3 times. That is an indication that, yes, we are committed to this. But the other areas Nigeria has been quite, Nigeria has done quite well at the international level as well. So there is some form of progress, but it's also clear that there's a lot of work to be done. And it's very clear that it's going to take more than the government. It's going to take everybody to put in, their efforts and come together to say, how do we tackle this effectively? Okay,
let's bring in Shamsuddin Lawal here. I want you to answer this last question I posed to Princess, whether we are making progress. And I want you to bring in the previous research survey you have done on list of corruption takers in Nigeria, 2016, 2019, and 2023. The changes, do they reflect positivity or negativity?
Okay, thank you, Amechi. Thank you, listeners. We have a lot of indicators in the report. For instance, we have the major indicator, which is prevalence rate. So if you check, we are making progress as far as Nigeria is concerned, because the prevalence rate, we have a reduction in the prevalence rate from 29% to 27%, even though we improved the methodology of computing the prevalence rate, whereby we are including all refusals, all bribe requested, but were refused by the citizens. So it's also an improvement. Also, another improvement as far as the survey is concerned in Nigeria is the reporting rate, the rate at which citizens are reporting corruption. It has improved from the 3.6% to 8.6%, which is more than double from 2019 to 2023. Also, another improvement is the refusals rate. If you check, the refusals rate now stand at 70%, which means people are really refusing to pay bribe when they are seeking for public services. And another improvement is consequences of reporting. It shows that public officials or organizations where the public officials requested the bribe are taking action against the officer. because that particular indicator reduced from 16% to almost 52%. That action has been taken against the officer that requested for bribe after reporting. And another improvement, that is number of bribes. So we computed number of bribes because, as I earlier mentioned, the reference period for the survey was 12 months, and we asked those selected respondents how many times they paid bribe. And after aggregating the number of bribes paid in 2019, it was estimated to be 117 million, as against what we realize now, 87 million. So you can see reduction in that area. The number of bribes paid in the country also reduced to 87 million bribes.
Okay, let's hope that this optimism, this positivity as reflected in this report will also translate to, of course, in practical terms, less offers, increased refusal and increased actions on the part of the officials to reprimand and investigate these offers and all that. Of course, it is an area where we must seek improvement if we really want the country to be developed. We have to thank you so much, Princess Chief Fierro of the of the United Nations Office for Drugs and Crime, and of course, Shamsuddin Lawa of the National Bureau of Statistics, two institutions that partnered to put this survey and the accompanying report out to the public. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We'll go for a break now. When we come back, we'll try to break it down further and, of course, look at Nigeria's overall corruption situation and efforts to tackle it. Yakubu, my Executive Director, Center for Fiscal Transparency, will join us. To stay with us.
Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria, which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT.
So much for staying with us. Yakubu, my Executive Director of the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity, joins me now to break down the corruption situation in Nigeria further down. Thank you so much for staying with us. This is not just one of the reports out there. I know your center also did this report about how the National Assembly have been going about their investigative committees and all that. With all these efforts we have put in place, is it a movement in a circle? This report from UNODC and National Bureau of Statistics presents hope, but can we in practical terms see these hopes that we can tame this monster called corruption?
Well, thank you for inviting me. There are several methods of corruption. You know, there's even an institute in the UK. All they do is to measure corruption. And this is one of them on bribery. You have the one by the World Bank. You have the one by the Transparency International. You have another one by the UNODC itself. So, but what we need to look at, why this research is important, is that In all those other measurement parameters, what they tend to look at is grand corruption-related cases, the ones that involve X amount of billions, or this has happened. But the ones countries don't look at, this is why the job by the UNODC is good, is the one on bribery. Because bribery is the one you and I today, on your way to work today, you must have met a policeman on the road, you want a passport, you go to the immigration office, you are seeking for justice, you go to the courts, you meet the clerks there.
Registrars.
Yeah, registrars, you are paying for water bill, light bill, daily contact of these public officers. And now what that does to the economy is that it creates a shadow economy, completely undocumented, where billions of naira in Nigeria now, billions of naira are transacted without documentation. And of course, that distorts the economy. So the research is very important because we're highly distracted with the grand corruption-related issues without looking at...
What do you mean by grand corruption? The big corruption by politicians?
Yes, the ones that involves the government-owned enterprises, the big ones, the NBS, politically exposed persons, the governments, the ministries, all those ones that collect revenue, customs, all of them. That's the ones we usually focus on. But we don't look at the effects that somebody will go to hospital today, looking to access a doctor, but has to pay something to see a doctor. Now that has several effects because the person can even die and you are denied the service that you are looking for. You are looking for a passport, you are going to school, you can't travel. To facilitate it, as we call it, you have to pay something so that your passport comes out on time. All these things have effects on the economy.
And the report talked about limiting contacts. The less the contact, the less opportunity for the demand for corruption, for bribery, and the willingness to pay. Of course, the issue of immigration and passport, the Minister of Interior has really done a lot of work in removing all the impediments that were there that slows down the process and enhances contacts, and it becomes a cesspool of corruption. It's something we can learn from, isn't it?
Yeah, the greatest tool for elimination of bribery, not corruption, of bribery, yes, is to remove the human element. And when you remove the human element, you put technology. Now, there's no contact. It reduces the contact, not that there's no contact. So once you do that, discretion, human discretion is removed, so you cannot even ask somebody for a bribe. Now imagine if a simple process, let's say you digitize all our car plate numbers, where there's a barcode there, where you scan, and to have your data or your details, you have no need for roadblock, for anybody to ask you for your driver's license, for anything, because there are systems that will flash, take your number, and bring out all your data. So, and if you have not paid, maybe you have not renewed your papers, it will automatically charge your account, because you have links to your BVN and these things. So you find that you don't have need for them on the VIO now on the road, and to be asking
that
for
appears so crude.
Everywhere, at every junction, they just stay by the corner looking for culprits and get them.
Swoop on.
Yes, to swoop on them and say, oh, you have not done this, you have not done that. So technology will clearly take out all these elements. But one thing government doesn't look at, that if you deploy this kind of technology, you actually improve your revenue. Because now you'll be collecting more revenue, people cannot violate, and even for the violators now, you deduct them directly. You understand? So it's actually easier for government to deploy this kind of mechanisms, technology, to enhance governance.
Well, at some point, the Federal Inland Revenue Service was talking about linking everything to BVN in such a way that if you're due for tax, and of course, they know what you have in all your accounts, and it presents them that with the opportunity to really tax you well and all that. This is what technology will do. You talked of reducing drastically contact as a way of forcing down bribery. What major masterstroke do we need to bring down corruption?
Corruption, several things. Now, when you look at this, the landscape, there are different types of corruption. But the major one that is hitting us is the procurement. Everything is through contract. That's where they inflate. Now, there are several others and they all have their problems. But let's take procurement for an example. And have a very simple system where you have the whole process is digitalized. The whole procurement process across the federal government level, the states, And the local governments now, because they're now going to have money, so they're going to start procurement now. Before you know it, next time you see local government chairmen start buying cars, buying furniture and all that, to give contracts because of the kickback and all of that. So when you digitalize the whole process, you have removed discretion, 1. 2, you have increased transparency and, of course, accountability. But they will not do it because we have been pushing for an e-procurement system in Nigeria.
Their interest is further if those technology are not brought in.
They are not brought in because if you have an e-procurement system, you have solved the problem. You have solved the problem. You see who was given a contract, how much it was done, those that bidded for it, whether it has finished or not, whether it was...
What the different entities quoted.
Yes, what they quoted, how much was spent, how much was not spent, how much was returned. If they did not do the job, were they arrested or they just forgot about it and give another person the contract? All these transparency issues will solve the problem.
Last week, or was it? I think last week, yes. The issue of amendment of the Procurement Act featured prominently at the Federal Executive Council. Okay. There's an ongoing process to amend it. I hope the government will put all this into consideration, the need to bring in technology in the procurement process to enhance transparency and accountability.
Even before that, I didn't follow it, but what they are even supposed to do, what the Act says since 2007, is to have a procurement council. Now, when you have a council, it draws people from different departments that the ones to...
Society of Engineers,
yes.
Civil society, even the media.
Thank you. Now, that council will set regulations and modalities for procurement. Now, that council has not been inaugurated since 2007. That's 15 years today, you understand? There is the council that would have brought systems like this to say we should have an e-procurement system for different categories of procurement.
And that council would have been the approving authority for procurement, but the Federal Executive Council, comprising of politicians, have usurped that powers, starting from Obasanjo, when that was passed late in his tenure, 2007, Yar'Adua, Jonathan, Buhari, and now Tinubu.
Yeah.
I've always challenged the government, if you really care about fighting corruption, strip yourself of that illegal powers to award contracts. Take it from the Federal Executive Council and constitute this council, which you rightly said they have refused to constitute in violation of our laws.
Not even fighting corruption, where do they have the time to sit at FEC once a week to be discussing procurement? With all the problems of this country, where do you have time? Oh no, okay, we're going to award this contract, we're going to award this dam. That is low level, below the ministerial level as far as I'm concerned, because ministers do policy. You can imagine it's policy issues that should be discussed at the FEC level, not contract.
He's the highest policy making body.
Yes, not contract and procurement. So I cringe when I see the outcome of FEC meeting saying, okay, today we have decided to award the contract and we'll all clap for them, so that is very wrong. I don't agree with it.
I wonder which government will have the political will to implement that. Of course, the pressure from party men is always an opportunity to indeed reward those that were part of the campaigns, those that donated money and provided one service or the other. So the pressure is always there on the president not to constitute that council. But we hope that one day a president of real and genuine integrity will come and put that in place.
I think we just need to advocate more because we have even forgotten that thing needs to be done since 2007.
It's not public discourse.
It's not really a public discourse. People have forgotten. So if you push it now, they will see the need to do that. And once they do that, you find that they have more time now to discuss better issues at the FEC meetings.
Okay. Now let's go into your own report.
Yeah.
The one you did about issues of public hearing in the National Assembly. Tell us about it.
Yeah, what we did was, since 1999, that was our start date, we realized the National Assembly has a habit, is their work. But they have a
the oversight function.
Yes, is their work, but they have a habit of forming committees to investigate incidences of grand corruption, of this amount is made, or NNPC paid X amount, or this has disappeared. Now, from 1999 till date, we collated 613 of such report cases of committees up to 2023. We have not even started this year now. And out of those 619, not even 3 have been concluded. So why are you forming committees, investigative reports? We have not seen the outcome of that report. We don't know whether monies have been refunded. We don't know whether anybody has been prosecuted. And every day we see them on TV threatening, oh, if this minister doesn't come, we are going to indict him. If he doesn't come, this will happen.
We're going to issue warrant of arrest.
Thank you. He now comes. Before you know it, they go into closed session and we don't hear an outcome. We as the center were just demanding for transparency. It's possible after the investigation. Monies were not missing, but we'd like to know. You cannot constitute 600 committees with taxpayers' funds and no outcome. And every day you are doing it. So there is this speculation that it's a trading platform. We don't have research.
Because most times after the opening where they bring in the media and raise these huge allegations.
Yeah.
Recall what happened recently between the Minister of Women Affairs and members of the Committee on Women Affairs. Those allegations came up and the minister said, no, I'm not going to take any of this. Usually, most likely, we're not going to hear anything about that. The media goes to town with the report, 1.5 billion, 100 billion missing, and at the end of the day, somehow, they find a way to settle. And like you said, once they settle, there's that belief that something may have exchanged hands.
Yeah, and the media is part of the problem, honestly, in this case, because we like sensationalism. So once we come, the headline makes 15 billion, 150 billion, there's that noise, then we'll go back to sleep. What we're supposed to look out for, the outcome. Because it's possible the money was missed, but what happened during the proceedings? We watch TV in other countries. All these things are even public. You do them in the public. So there's no need for closed-door meeting. Meanwhile, even if you want to do closed-door, after you are finished, just a report.
Must it be closed-door? Is it not public funds? Is it a secret society meeting that are holding? It should be open meeting.
I agree with you.
Because public funds are involved.
I agree with you completely.
Perhaps that's where we should start first, insisting that all committee hearing in the National Assembly must be done in the open, except, of course, the areas that have to do with security.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And once that is done, they should release a report of the outcome. You cannot have, as a country or as a National Assembly, 600 probes with no outcome of just 1 or 2. And even the 1 or 2, they were not concluded, They said they've released...
Conclusively concluded?
No, yes, not even one. I think it's embarrassing for any organization with that kind of result, because this is near 0 over 100. So you have 100 examinations, I have not released a report on any of them. So it's not good for their own integrity.
It speaks volumes, and it's not good. And I wish the media would raise these issues before members of the National Assembly, starting with the leadership. Did you send these copies to them?
Yeah, we're about to, actually. Okay. We're advised to, so we have actually extracted everything, printed them in hard copy since they like seeing paper, and we sent to them. We sent to them that, look, we just want to know the status. Nigerians want to know the status of this probes that you have been doing from 1999 to date, because governance is a continuum, we know. So just tell us what the
You can't tell us, no, it's the 4th National Assembly.
Yes.
He is the National Assembly as an... I know of one organization, a non-governmental organization that went to court, dragged the leadership of the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
I think is it the 9th or the 8th under Femi Bajabiamila, Speaker. I think it was the 9th. They instituted a probe over the Chinese loan. It was the Committee on Foreign Loans and Treaties were given the mandate. They invited then Minister of Transportation, Chibika Mechi, all of them. And they were asking questions over whether the sovereignty of Nigeria was violated in that agreement. Some people even said part of the agreement were written in Chinese language, Mandarin, and all that. A lot of revelations as usual, but after some time it went under. So this non-governmental organization went to court, insisting that court should grant order of mandamus, compelling the National Assembly's House of Representatives to conclude that sitting and release the report. But before the matter could be dispensed with, the life of the National Assembly ended, and that was the end of the matter.
And we're forgotten.
Yes.
That's the problem. Now, those 600 are grand corruption-related probes. There are other ones, like you just cited, that may not have anything to do with money, but let's say exchanges were made, transactions were done, that Nigerians need to know because it's public funds. So the National Assembly represents the people. And in representation, you should give feedback. It's one of the critical pillars of the National Assembly, feedback. So if you are doing these things and you are not giving us feedback, we have to ask questions and we'll continue to demand for answers.
And I wish, like you said, the media would take the front row in asking for questions.
Yes, sir.
If you're an advisor on anti-corruption to the president, to the EFCC chairman, I say, other anti-corruption institution, what do you want them to do differently in this present time?
It's more than, it's a big, what we need to do, I think now, we need to restructure the country, restructure in the sense that the public service is too big. The federal government is too big. That is why there's so much interest to go and pack what I can take and leave. So when I'm talking about economic restructuring, really, of course it will delve into the political restructuring, where states, what they make from each state, they keep within their states and pay money to the center. All this corruption will reduce. Because look at all this economic crisis now. Those government-owned institutions, about 62 of them, they are still spending the way they have always spent. They are still buying the jeeps.
Especially the revenue-generating ones.
Yes, 60 of them, 62 of them actually. They are still buying jeeps. They are still traveling first class, business class. Nothing has changed in their lifestyle because the money just comes in. And it's because it has to do with the structure of the country. That is why accountability is difficult. Too much money is going to the center and people are not looking at the thing. But when it comes down, like they've done for local government and states, and we know, and the more the ratio comes down, I think people will be more interested in demanding for accountability. That is a strong political move that needs to be done by this government.
Okay, let's end this program with your feedback from our ex-handle. We'll start from Osa George, who says procurement and contracting is a means of Nigerian government to settle party stalwarts. There can never be a good procurement system in Nigeria as long as we have a rubber-stamped Senate and House of Representatives that are both corrupt. Now, Abubakar Ali says, Yakubu Umar has enumerated excellent ways to eradicate corruption, such as reducing or eliminating human contacts or interferences. Is one of the numerous steps we must take. Automation will go a very long way to reduce corruption and corrupt tendencies. 30 seconds reaction to the tweets.
Yes, sir. And the first one, yes, the last one he said is true. It will reduce, once you reduce the human interference, you eliminate the aspect of bribery, not necessarily corruption. That's what it will do. And what is said, the first speaker I've forgotten, is about the National Assembly, right? They should always remember that they're representatives of the people. They are not representing themselves.
That's Osa Judge.
Yes.
Osa's Judge, as it were.
Yes, procurement is doable. It can be done. All it needs is a simple tool and, of course, the political will. Once you do it, it's doable, especially at the subnational level. There is a very weak procurement systems at the subnational level, not to talk about even the local government level, though they were controlled.
That is where they exist. I don't know whether all the states of the Federation have active procurement laws.
They do. Most of them they do, but the implementation is a problem.
Is the problem.
They have it because it's a condition for foreign loan. If you don't have the procurement law, you can't
access. They have
to
quickly go set it up.
Yes, you can't access some more bank loans. So that's
we have to thank you so much, Yakubu Umar, Executive Director, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity. Thank you so much for
Thank you very much.
Today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you also for being part of it. Join the civil society, the anti-corruption agencies, and the media in fighting corruption and bribery in Nigeria by saying something when you see something. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Amit Chanap. Have a good time.